So we just left off here where we had seen that the way the world worked in 1962 was not the way it works now. Well, what about the correlation coefficient? So the correlation coefficient for this data right here is negative 0.76177. What does that tell us about a possible linear relationship between the two variables? There is a very strong, not very strong, but a strong negative relationship between fertility rate and life expectancy. And we already knew that because that's what we described right here when we described that, you know, groups on the bottom right, big families, small life, top left, right, small families, long life, right? That's exactly what you're describing is a negative relationship. Okay, so last but not least, correlation and causation. So the thing about correlation is that a lot of people get confused and think that that means that one thing causes another. So I have this example here with ice cream and crime. And so the policeman shuts down the ice cream shop saying ice cream sales and crime rates go together. So we're just going to shut down all the ice cream shops, which doesn't make any sense. And the reason it doesn't make any sense is that there's something else going on. Namely, ice cream isn't causing crime, right? It's the season and temperature. You're more likely to commit a crime in summer or when it's warm outside, right? You don't want to go steal a TV in the winter. You could end up in the ditch and you could get your tracks picked up in the snow and et cetera, et cetera. You could fall and break your arm. In other words, there's a lurking variable. There are other variables that are affecting what's going on that are not represented in your data. There are other things that are happening that are causing what's going on for both of your variables, if that makes sense. We ran into lurking variables way back in chapter 1 and they're back. Dun, dun, dun. So what about our free reduced lunch example? The one where we saw that free reduced lunch, the higher your free reduced lunch rate, the lower your chance of passing that test, right? Well, does that mean that getting the free reduced lunch rate causes the passing and not passing of tests? Right? We saw that they had a moderate negative relationship with test scores, right? The more free reduced lunch you have, the lower your test scores at that school. But it's not like free reduced lunch is causing the low test scores. There are other things that are affecting what's going on, namely the education level of your parents, the socioeconomic factors. Free reduced lunch happens usually in places that have low income, high minority, high immigration levels, people that don't speak English as a first language, people that don't have a high participation rate in their students or their child's education. All of those things, those are lurking variables. So let me put that, lurking variables, right? All of those things are affecting what's going on. It's not the lunch that's causing them to get low scores. It's everything else in their life that's causing them to get low scores. All right, what about this example? A politician sees our data from back here, right, where fertility rate and life expectancy went together in a negative way. And that politician from this Asian country says, okay, that's it. I'm going to limit my people to only have one child per woman. Sound familiar? It should, right? And I'm not just thinking of Mao's one-child policy, the Chinese one-child policy, but similar policies have been enacted in several third world countries. The problem is that it's not the fertility rate. You know, let me type this. Hold on one second. There we go. All right, so the problem is not that the fertility rate is causing high or low life expectancy. I mean, you can't just arbitrarily go, oh, one kid, that's it, right? There are other factors, i.e. lurking variables, behind these variables. How about education level of both men and women in your society? What's the gross domestic product of your country? What kind of infrastructure do you have? What kind of medical care do you have? Do you have good roads to get to medical care? What's the status of women in your country? Are women treated like chattel? Are they treated like equal partners? Right? There was a country, I believe in the 80s, that tried to do something like this by forcing women to have birth control, IUDs, but they never educated the women. They kept them illiterate, and it didn't work very well. Whereas a different country would educate the women population, and automatically their fertility rates go down because once women start going to college, they delay having babies. Right? All those other variables need to be raised to affect life expectancy. Low fertility rates is just one piece of that puzzle.